You know, we began this campaign about 9 months ago. And when we began the campaign, we had no money, we had no political organization, and outside of Vermont, we had very little name recognition. A lot has happened in the last 9 months. Today, we are locked in a very, very close race right here in Iowa. And if we have the kind of turnout that I hope we can, we're going to win here in Iowa. If we win here in Iowa, I think we're going to do very, very well in New Hampshire. Ground in Nevada and South Carolina. So on February 1st, you have the opportunity to make history. You have the opportunity to say that it is just too late for establishment politics and establishment economics, that together we are going to take this country in a very new and different direction. That in fact, we are going to make a political revolution. What does that mean? What does the concept of political revolution mean? By the way, can you hear me back there? I think we make this a little bit louder if that's possible. What a political revolution means is that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. And here's the truth that no other candidate will tell the American people. And that is that the powers that be today in America, and that is Wall Street with their endless supply of money, it is corporate America, it is the corporate media who determines what you see and hear, it is large campaign donors. These people have so much power that no president, no matter how well-intentioned, can do what has to be done for the working families of this country, unless millions of people, many of whom are not now engaged in the political process, many of whom are demoralized and discouraged because they believe that Washington is not hearing their pain, not hearing or feeling what's going on in their lives. If we can bring those people into the political process, we can create a government which works for all of us and not a handful of wealthy campaign contributors. That is what this campaign about. Of course I'm here to ask for your vote and your support, but I'm asking much more. What I'm asking is, yes, help me win Iowa, help me win the Democratic nomination, help me win the general election, but don't desert me the day after the election. Is not just about electing a president. Far more importantly, this campaign is about transforming America, and the only way we do that is by doing it together. we had the pundits and all of the experts saying, well, you know, Bernie Sanders combs his hair really nicely. He's a GQ kind of guy. But you know what, despite all those attributes, he's really a fringe candidate. That was what they said. But what has happened in the last number of months has really been extraordinary. What has happened is hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people have signed up to volunteer on this campaign. And as we speak right now, here in Iowa, there are people knocking on doors, making phone calls. We have thousands and thousands of volunteers. And then something else happened, which was really, to be honest with you, beyond my wildest dreams. When you run for president of the United States, it's all, you know, sadly but truthfully, you need an unbelievable amount of money to effectively compete. That's the sad reality. You need hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions or more dollars in the general election. And people said, when the experts said, look, this is the year 2015, 2016, the only way you can raise the kinds of money that you need to effectively compete is to have a super PAC and to go out to millionaires and billionaires and beg them for money. Well, we thought about that for about 1/10 of a second. We concluded that we don't represent the billionaire class, we don't represent Wall Street, we don't represent the drug companies, we don't want their money, and we will succeed without having a super PAC. That I am the only candidate competing for the Democratic nomination and the only non-billionaire candidate who does not have a super PAC. And let me tell you something which is to me just been absolutely mind-blowing. It's fine to give a speech about not having a super PAC, but then you gotta go out and raise money. How are you gonna do it? And the way we decided to do it was the very old-fashioned way. What we said to working families all over this country, look, if you want to have a candidate who's going to stand up and fight for you, we need your help. And what happened in the last 9 months is that we have received 2.5 million individual campaign contributions. That is more individual campaign contributions than any candidate in American history at this point in time. And here's what is really extraordinary about that. When you go and do a super PAC, you go to wealthy people's homes, and you sit down with 10 or 20 people, and they all make contributions of $100,000, $200,000, $1 million, and you leave a room with 20 people with many millions of dollars. Our average campaign contribution is $27. Abraham Lincoln, this is a campaign of the people, by the people, and for the people. Now we are into the last 8 days of the campaign here in Iowa. And what happens at the end of any campaign, a lot of things are thrown out. A lot of statements are made, and I will shock none of you to suggest that not everything that's thrown out is necessarily accurate. I know I shocked you by saying that. And one of the arguments being made by my opponent is that, well, you know, Bernie Sanders is a nice guy and all that, but you know what? He cannot win a general election. Thank you. That our campaign is the strongest campaign in taking on the right-wing Republican candidate, whoever he or she may be. And this is, number one, we have some facts behind us. There have been a number of polls that have been done in recent weeks comparing Secretary Clinton to Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders to Donald Trump. In a recent national poll, Secretary Clinton did very well. She beat Donald Trump by 10 points. We beat him by 15 points. In another poll, she beat him by 7 points. We beat him by 13 points. Here in Iowa, which, by the way, is not only the first state in the country to have a caucus, but it's also a battleground state. We're not sure how it's going to go. But here in Iowa, Secretary Clinton beat Trump by 8 points. We beat him by 13 points. And in New Hampshire, a state where Secretary Clinton is very well known, in fact, she won that state in 2008, I'm well known. She did well. She beat Donald Trump by 1 point. We beat him by 19 points. But the truth is, polls are polls, and they will change every day. But here is the more important reason why I think we are the stronger candidate to run against Trump or whoever the Republicans put up. And that is, Republicans win elections not by their ideas, which are usually pretty pathetic. They win elections when people are demoralized and give up on the political process and don't come out and vote. A year ago in November, in the midterm election, not the presidential election, the midterm election when all the seats in the House and a third of the seats in the Senate were coming up, Republicans won a landslide, crushing victory. And they won a victory because 63% of the American people did not vote. 80% of young people did not vote. That is when Republicans win. When there is a large voter turnout, like there was in 2008 when President Obama was elected, Democrats and progressives win. Than any objective assessment of our campaigns, the Secretary Clinton's campaign and our campaign, would suggest that the energy, the enthusiasm, is with our campaign. And what I believe that will mean in November is that we will be capable of bringing out a lot of working people, a lot of young people who previously were not involved in the political process. And if we have a good voter turnout, a large voter turnout, not only will we win that election and retain the White House, we're going to regain the Senate, we're going to win Governor Kennedy. is we are treating the American people, this is a pretty radical idea, as if they were intelligent human beings. You have kind of heard me making vicious and stupid attacks against my opponents. In fact, let me be very frank with you. I have known Hillary Clinton for 25 years, and I have enormous respect for her and the years of public service that she has given this country. And while it may work for Donald Trump, I just have never believed that the American people will fall for a candidate that says, I'm great, I know everything, I'm perfect, all of my opponents are donkeys and idiots. I don't think the American people believe that at all. But let me just take a moment, and I don't think anybody will contest it, just very briefly to capsulize some of the differences that Secretary Clinton and I have had. There are many. Let me just capsulize and touch on some. Secretary Clinton obviously used to be a U.S. Senator from New York, and I was in the House in Vermont when the war in Iraq was being debated. And I listened very, very closely to what President Bush and Vice President Cheney and all the rest had to say about why they thought we should invade Iraq. I voted against that war. Secretary Clinton voted for that war. That is a difference in judgment regarding what turns out to be the most important foreign policy moment in my career. In my view, the business model of Wall Street is fraud. Recklessness and the illegal behavior on Wall Street brought this country into the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression of the 1930s. Millions of people lost their jobs, their homes, and their life savings. Wall Street was bailed out because the major banks were considered too big to fail. If they went down, they did much of the economy with them. Today, 3 out of the 4 largest banks in this country are larger than they were when we bailed them out because they were too big to fail. In my view, when you have a handful of giant financial institutions with so much wealth and so much economic and political power, the time is now to break them up. There's another issue in which maybe it's more tactical or strategic, but I believe that it is an international disgrace that the United States of America is the only major country on earth that does not provide paid family and medical leave. There is legislation in the Senate that has, I believe, 20 sponsors, legislation in the House, same bill, which has 114 sponsors. And what that bill says is that we will provide every family in America 3 months of paid family and medical leave. And to pay for that, because it's an expensive proposition, we will raise payroll taxes by $1.61 a week for the average working family. I believe that's a good investment. to say that when your kids are sick or your parents are sick, you can take care of your parents or your kids without fear of being fired. I think that that makes sense. I think it's a good investment. Secretary Clinton does not support that legislation. And there's another issue that we don't talk about anywhere near enough. And I see we have a lot of young people, but someday, young people, you're going to get older. And when you get older, you're going to know that you're going to have to buy medicine and prescription drugs, that you're going to spend a lot of money on health care, and that you're not able to go out and work and make an income. Truth is that in America today, we have millions of seniors and people with disabilities and disabled vets who are trying to make it on $12,000 or $13,000 a year Social Security. And if you think about it for a second, you understand that they are not making it on $12,000 or $13,000 a year Social Security. What you know is that on cold days, whether it's in Iowa or Vermont, seniors will turn down the thermostat because they can't afford the heat bill. They will cut their prescription drug bills in half because they don't have enough money to pay for their medicine. And in some cases, they just can't afford to buy the food they need to stay healthy. That's the reality. Now, my Republican friends, most of them, think that we should cut Social Security. Now, it is beyond my comprehension how many Republicans think that when people are barely able to get by on not getting by, on $12,000, $13,000 a year, they want to even cut Social Security.
They don't care.
In my view, not only, and I say this as somebody who's helped lead the effort in Congress against cuts in Social Security, but that's not enough. What we have got to be talking about is not just not cutting Social Security, we have got to be talking about expanding Social Security. When you turn on the TV, you'll find some Republican guy or some Republican think tank telling you Social Security is going broke. That's untrue. Social Security has $2.7 trillion in the trust fund, can pay out every benefit owed to every eligible American for the next 19 years. But the truth is, 19 years is not enough. I want to see it extended. So this is what I have proposed. And this is exactly what Barack Obama proposed in 2008. And that is, we lift the cap on taxable income coming into the Social What that means is that right now, you have some guy making $5 million a year, somebody making $118,000. Both contribute the same amount into the Social Security trust fund. If you lift that cap, you start up at $250,000. That's 1.5% of the American people. And have them pay the same tax rate in Social Security as somebody making $40,000 a year. What we can do is extend the life of Social Security for 50 years, and for those seniors living on $16,000 or less, we can expand their benefits by $1,300 a year. On that issue, I support lifting the cap. Secretary Clinton does not. Another issue, and I'll talk about this more in a moment. I am on the Energy Committee in the Senate and the Environmental Committee. and I have talked to scientists all over the world, and don't let anybody kid you on this issue. The debate is over. Climate change is real. It is caused by human activity. And it is already causing devastating problems in our country and throughout the world. Now, some of you are aware of the Keystone Pipeline. I agree. Keystone Pipeline would encourage the excavation and the transportation of some of the dirtiest fossil fuel in the world. I was one of the very first people to say, if we are going to transform our energy system and move away from fossil fuel, we cannot support the Keystone Pipeline. The Bakken Pipeline. All the pipelines in New Hampshire or Vermont. Point being, I was out front on that issue. Hillary Clinton did come out late in the process in opposition to the Keystone Pipeline. I appreciate that, but it would have been better for her to come out earlier. Now, last point in terms of our differences, and maybe the most important one. We are living in a country with massive income and wealth inequality. We are living in a country which has a rigged economy, which has a corrupt campaign finance system, and has a broken criminal justice system. Based on our gender and our life's work, which candidate is prepared to stand up to Wall Street and the billionaire class and represent working families. Now, when we consider why the American people are angry, and we are angry. There are a lot of reasons to be angry, but I think one of them has a lot to do with the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality in America. And I just wanted to mention to you that today in America, and I want you to think about this, you tell me if this makes sense to you. In America today, the top 1/10 of 1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. Today in America, the 20 wealthiest people own more wealth than the bottom 150 million Americans, half our population. It's like a Greek chorus. Here's something that I think we should think about for a number of reasons. You know, one of the fun things about running for president is you can force discussion on issues that many people would prefer to sweep under the rug. And here's one of those issues. Today in America, you got one family, the Walton family, that owns Walmart. They own more wealth alone, one family, than the bottom 40% of the American people. Now, I think that unto itself is absurd, grossly unfair. But here's what else is absolutely unacceptable. We hear a lot, especially from our Republican colleagues, about welfare abuse, about people taking advantage of the welfare system, about people cheating who are on welfare. So let me tell you who the major welfare recipient in this country is. It is the Walton family, the wealthiest family in America. I'll tell you what I mean by that. You as taxpayers, as working people, middle-class people, are subsidizing in a very big way the wealthiest family in America. Many of the employees who work at Walmart are on food stamps, they are on Medicaid, they are in subsidized housing that you are paying for. Walton family, the wealthiest family in America, get off of welfare, pay your workers a living wage. America today, and again, it's not talked about too often, but it's true. In my state of Vermont, and I'm sure here in Iowa, there are many people who are working not one job, but 2 jobs or 3 jobs in order to cobble together some income and some health care. Now, the very good news is, although my Republican friends seem to not want to understand it, is the economy today is much, much better than it was when Bush left office 7 years ago. When Bush left office, we were losing 800,000 jobs a month. The deficit was at $1.4 trillion, the largest deficit in our history. And by the way, the world's financial system was on the verge of collapse. Other than that, we were doing pretty good. Now, we have to forgive our Republican friends because they suffer from a very serious illness called amnesia. They just can't remember back 7 years ago. And every problem that the country faces, it's hot, it's cold, it's raining, it's snowing. I'm sure there'll be attacks on President Obama because there are 2 feet of snow in Washington today. Must be his fault, whatever. But the reality is that yes, we are much better off today than we were 7 years ago. But the other reality is that millions and millions of families are still struggling to keep their heads above water economically. And one of the reasons for that is that wages in America are just too low. The federal minimum wage today is $7.25 an hour. My friends, that is a starvation wage. We are going to raise that minimum wage to $15 an hour. We've got to do. And that is, I hope that every man in this room will stand with the women and fight for pay equity for women. Today, women are making about 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. There is no economic rationale for that. It is just old-fashioned sexism, and together we're going to change that. Talk about the economy, it's important to talk about jobs. Now, every month, federal government comes out with a series of reports. And one report is official unemployment, which recently is at about 5%. Problem is, there is another report that comes out that doesn't get a whole lot of attention, but is actually more accurate. And that deals with people not only are unemployed, but people who are underemployed and have given up looking for work. That number is 9.9%. Furthermore, and here is an issue we do not talk about at all, is the crisis of youth unemployment. I asked some economists to do a study for me. This is what they found. For high school kids who graduated high school, between the ages of 17 and 20, if the kids were whites, real unemployment was 33%. If the kids were Latino, 36%. If the kids were African American, 51%. And I want you all for a moment, put yourself into the head of a kid who graduates high school, wants to stand up on his or her 2 feet, go out into the world, get away from their parents, start a career. They can't find a job. Now, if anybody thinks, as tragic as that is, and what it does to a whole lot of people, if anybody in this room thinks there is not a direct correlation between that reality and the reality that we have more people today in jail than any other country on earth, you would be mistaken. You ready for a radical idea? This looks like a radical idea. Right now, we have 2.2 million people in jail. We spend $80 billion a year keeping them in jail. In my view, we should be investing in jobs and education rather than jail. Here in Iowa, for better or for worse, you see a whole lot of politicians tropping through your state. And many of the Republicans will talk about family values. They just love families. Stay up nights worrying about families. But all of you know what they mean when they talk about family values. What they are saying is that every woman in this large room, in this state, in this country, should not have the right to control her own body. I disagree. Federal government should cut funding for Planned Parenthood. I think we should expand funding. is that our gay brothers and sisters should not have the right to marry. I disagree with that. If real unemployment is 9.9% and youth unemployment is off the charts, what the federal government should be doing is developing a massive jobs program to put our people back to work. We should be hiring teachers, not firing teachers. At a time when every psychologist who studies the issue understands that the most important years of a human being's life, intellectually and emotionally, are 0 to 4, we have got to admit that we have a dysfunctional child care and pre-K system. And all over this country, working families are desperately trying to find good quality, affordable child care for their little kids. And that is why I believe we need to be hiring hundreds of thousands of well-trained, well-paid child care workers to help us. Tell you what else we need to do. In my state, we have many of our bridges which are in need of repair. We have roads all over this country that are in need of repair. We have water systems, and not just in Flint, Michigan, that are falling apart, wastewater plants. We have a rail system now behind many other countries, airports that need a lot of work. If we invest $1 trillion over 5 years, we can create 13 million good-paying jobs, rebuilding our economy. Now, people say, well, Bernie, you're a nice guy, you're Santa Claus, you're doing all these things. How are you going to pay for it? Fair question. To pay for it, what we are going to do is do away with an outrageous loophole that now exists, which allows very profitable U.S. multinational corporations to stop stashing their money, their profits in the Cayman Islands and in other tax havens. It's costing us $100 billion a year of tax avoidance. We're going to make them start paying their taxes. Now, everybody here knows, and I know this, because we're here in college, that all of you are aware that if our country is going to succeed economically, now and in the future, we need the best educated workforce in the world. I want you to think about it. Sometimes what happens is we take things for granted, which are really outrageous, but we just get used to it. Today in America, we have millions of people who are struggling with outrageously high student debt. Okay?
85.
80,000? 80? Well, I'm sorry, you won. That's a lot. All right, but here's the point. I don't mean to be facetious because this is really not a laughing matter. I'll just tell you a few stories about this. A couple of years ago, I did a meeting in Burlington, Vermont, with people who had student debt. A woman comes up, young woman. She fulfilled her dream, not only graduating college, but going to medical school. She is now a physician, primary care physician, working with low-income people. Exactly what we need because we have a primary care crisis in America. She has $300,000 in debt. Now, I thought that was the utmost. Then I go to Des Moines, have a meeting, and a woman comes up and says, I just graduated dental school. $400,000 in debt. At a time when we desperately need dentists. Then a couple of weeks ago, I was in a town here in Iowa, don't remember the name of the town, and a young man stands up, and he says, I am working in sustainable energy, don't make a lot of money. I'm married, I have 2 kids in his late 20s. He has not only $90,000 in debt, he is paying over 15% of his limited income, paying off that debt. Talk to a guy in Nevada. He is 55 years of age. He's been paying off his student debt for 25 years. He's further behind than when he started. Point being is that people should not become economically crushed for the crime of trying to get an education. That many of you are going to be experiencing with high school debt. Our job is to encourage the American people to get as much education as they can. That's good for our country. So what we are going to do are 2 things. Number one, if you have student debt, right now you are stuck with the interest rates that you have, and it could be 6, 8, 10%. What we will provide is your ability to refinance student debt to get it at the lowest interest rates possible. The other thing that we are going to do is make public colleges and universities tuition free. Now, my critics, of which there are many, suggest that this is an expensive proposition. Significantly lowering interest rates on student debt, making public colleges and universities tuition free. And they're right. About $70 billion a year. How are we going to pay for that? I will tell you how we pay for it. We're going to pay for it through a tax on Wall Street speculation. The greed and recklessness of Wall Street brought this country's economy to a major collapse. The middle class of this country bailed out Wall Street. Now it is Wall Street's time to help the middle class. When we talk about our responsibilities as adults, as parents, it is important it is vitally important that we leave this planet in a way that is healthy and habitable for our children, our grandchildren, and future generations. As I mentioned earlier, I sit on the Environmental Committee and the Energy Committee. And what the scientists are telling us is not just that climate change is real. Everybody except Republican presidential candidates understand that. But that if we don't get our act together in the very near future, this planet, by the end of this century, could be 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit warm. And that means more droughts, more floods, more extreme weather disturbances, more acidification of the ocean. We are in the process of destroying our oceans, more rising sea levels, more international conflict as people fight over limited natural resources. To my mind, there is no debate but that we must be aggressive, take on the fossil fuel industry, and transform our energy. Efficiency, and that means making our homes and buildings more energy efficient. And in Vermont, we've done some pretty good work in that area. We've got to go to sustainable energy. And here in Iowa, you have been leaders in the country. And because we can't do it alone, we've got to work with China and Russia and India. Now, I want to connect some dots here today, and I want you to think about something. The scientific community is virtually unanimous. Really, the debate is over about the reality of climate change and the damage it is causing and the potential damage. And yet, you do not have one Republican candidate for president who even acknowledges the reality of climate change, let alone come up with ideas as to how we can transform our energy system.
Tesla.
You have people like Donald Trump, that well-known scientist. And his view, this really surprised me. There were very little surprises me about Trump, but his analysis is that climate change is a hoax created by the Chinese. I was shocked by that because I thought he would have thought that it was a hoax created by Mexicans. Or by Muslims. But no, it was the Chinese. And that is the prevailing, the other argument being made by the Republicans is they are not scientists. They just don't have enough facts. But why is that? And I want you to think about this for a second. And if you think it's because Republicans can't read or listen to scientists, I'm on many committees. I'm on the Health, Education, Labor Committee. I deal with the Republicans. We talk about cancer and Alzheimer's and diabetes. They ask sensible questions. They don't beat up the researchers. Why is it on this issue that they refuse to acknowledge reality? And the answer is that we have a corrupt campaign finance system. If today any Republican were to stand up and say, I just talked to some scientists, I've read the literature, man, we got a problem, we got to do something about that problem. On that day, not tomorrow, on that day, that candidate would lose his funding from the Koch brothers, from ExxonMobil, from the fossil fuel industry. is think about your grandchildren, think about future generations, worry about them and not your campaign fundraising. What this campaign is about is asking the American people to think big, not small, to understand that we are living in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, to understand that in the last 30 years, there has been a massive transfer of wealth from the hands of working people to the top 1/10 of 1%. And what I'm asking the American people to understand is that if we stand together and not let the Trumps of the world divide us up, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. And one area, in my view, that needs some real work is healthcare. Now, I am a member of the Health, Education, and Labor Committee, which used to be chaired, by the way, by your former Senator, Tom Harkin. And I cannot tell you how many meetings we went to, how long we worked in order to pass the Affordable Care Act. It required 60 votes, as Republicans filibustered, and we got 60 votes, not 61. We got 60 votes. And the Affordable Care Act, in my view, has done some very important things. It has ended the private insurance obscenity of pre-existing conditions. It has added over 17 million Americans to the ranks of the insured. It has helped to end discrimination against women who have to pay higher costs for their health care than men. It has helped to lower what we call the cost curve, the rate of inflation in health care, which is enormously important. All of those and more are things that we should be proud of. But, and here is the big but. Today, the United States remains the only major country on earth that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right. Today, we have 29 million people who are still uninsured, and we have more who are underinsured with high deductibles, high co-payments. Anybody in this room have high deductibles? What kind of deductibles do you have? 6,000? How much? 12? 13,000. All right, now what deductibles mean? Well, I was at a meeting the other day and a woman stopped and said, not only do you have a high deductible, you have a $150 co-payment. Okay, you guys got co-payments as well, yes? Now what does that mean in the real world? What it means is if you don't have a whole lot of money, and you have a high deductible, whether it's 5,000, 12,000, and you get sick, what do? Do you go to the doctor? No, you don't go to the doctor. And here is what is crazy and very unsettling. I have talked to doctors all over my state of Vermont, in fact all over this country, and this is what they will tell you. They will tell you that people walk into their offices much, much sicker than they should be. And the doctor said, why didn't you come in here 6 months ago when you first saw the symptom? And what does the person say? The person says, well, you know, I'm uninsured, I don't have any money, I have a high deductible. And sometimes what the doctors will tell you is they lose those patients. Those patients waited too long. Or other times, they say, we're going to send you to the hospital tomorrow. A huge cost to the me be very loud and clear and straightforward. I believe that the United States of America should join the rest of the industrialized world. I believe that healthcare is a right for all people, not a privilege. Everything relates to everything else. When we talk about money in politics, the power of big money, that's what we're talking about here. Now, I want you to think about it. Tell me how it can be that in the United Kingdom, they provide health care to all people, and yet we are spending almost 3 times per person of what they spend in the UK. French have a good health care system, guaranteed to all people. We spend 50% more per person than the French. I live 50 miles away from Canada. They provide health care to all of their people at far less cost per person than we do. Now, why is it that we remain the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care? Why is it that we end up paying by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs? And it comes back to the same old story, and that is the power of the private insurance industry, the power of the pharmaceutical industry. This is so crazy. Let me tell you why. 1 out of 5 Americans today who receive a prescription from their doctor cannot afford to fill that prescription. You understand how crazy that is? If you're sick and you go to the doctor and he or she writes you a prescription and you can't fill it, what happens? You get sicker. You end up in the emergency room at great cost to the system. You may end up in the hospital. It is not a radical idea to say that people should be able to afford the prescription drugs their doctors prescribe. At a time when seniors are cutting their bills in half, at a time when 1 out of 5 Americans can't afford to buy the prescription medicine their doctors prescribe, the top 3 drug companies in America made $45 billion in profit last year. We need, in my view, to join the rest of the world, major countries. We need a Medicare for all single-payer program. Criticized for this idea, been criticized for it a lot, but I want you to think, how could it be that they can do it in the United Kingdom, in France, in Germany, in Sweden, in Denmark, in Holland, in Canada, every major country on earth, but somehow we in America, we can't do it. I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that. Let me conclude today by telling you what this campaign is about. It is not just electing Bernie Sanders. It really is not. What it is about is creating a political revolution in which millions of people start to participate in American politics in a way that we have not seen for a very, very long time. The reason that the drug companies can double the price of your medicine tomorrow with impunity The reason that 29 million people have no health insurance, the reason that millions of people in this country are deeply in debt because of the crime of wanting a higher education, the reason our infrastructure is crumbling, the reason that we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth, and we're the only major country without paid family and medical leave. The reason for that is that you have a government today that is significantly controlled by big money interests who worry, and politicians who worry about their campaign contributions, not about the middle class and working families. What the political revolution is about. It's not complicated. It's about revitalizing American democracy, ending the absurdity of us having one of the lowest voter turnouts in the world. We should have one of the highest voter turnouts in the world. And ultimately, what it is about is creating a government that represents all of us and not just the billionaire class. Thank you all very much.